this meeting of the Italian Village Commission to order. Our next business meeting will be Tuesday, March 31st at 12 p.m. in room 205, which is the room we're in. Next month's hearing will be April 14th at 4 p.m. in room 204. Please swear you in. Okay, do you, so swearing in staff, do you swear to tell the truth to the best of your ability this evening?
I did.
Great, thank you. Oh, and state your name for the record.
So for both.
Introduction of commissioners, I'll start on the left.
Gordon Smith.
Paige Kublinski.
Shannon Salvador.
Carla Troy.
Okay, and do we have a public forum?
Not this evening in a while.
Is this email considered a part of the public forum or should it
That
be?
is to be read into the record as part of application number 4.
Okay, I'll on to that then.
Yes, number 4.
Right. Let's start with approval of the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion for that? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then approval of staff approvals. Let's start on page 4, and there's only one of them. First, can I have a motion to approve these? In a second,
Second.
and I'm gonna read off any the addresses, and if you need to excuse yourself from that particular address, I think so. 800 North High Street. All right, hearing none, are all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, motion carries. Okay, we don't have any other staff recommended applications to look at. We have continued applications. This first application, 1041 Summit Street. Here, okay, you can come on up, and I actually need to excuse myself for this guy.
Who will be sharing?
Paige.
Okay. This first application is COA 260047 at 1011 Summit Street. This application is a response to a code violation to install HVAC equipment penetrating into the slate roof, which will not be slate at this point. I'll speak more to that later. At the primary east side, terminating between the dormers. The following is taken from the approved minutes from the February 10th IBC hearing. The commission asked what the height of the screening will be. The drawings of the height see 36 inches, so the property was recently approved to raise the screening to 42 inches per code. The commission requested the applicant to revise drawings and renderings to show the 42 inches if they are wanting to still continue with the total screening. They recommended the applicant show an option of 48 inches to see how that would appear. Commissioners stated that they are worried about altering / covering up the aesthetics of the structure. Commissioners asked if the intake unit is slanted or straight. If slanted, is there enough space between the doors and the proposed screening for proper airflow? Commissioners stated that the change from metal to wood for the screening may be more appropriate for building, but would like to see the detailing and elevation view to see how it would work on site, as well as compare with the previously proposed screening. Commissioners stated that since the applicant clarified that the roofing material is fibrous and not slate, then going through the roof is fine since it is not damaging existing slate. Commission would like the applicant to submit additional detailed photos and information for the shingles for the commission to review. Commissioners requested additional perspective pictures from the right-of-way, straight on, and from the side. Commissioners requested a cross-section drawing of the area where the ductwork has penetrated the roof and show the structural components of the building to provide visual reasoning on why it's installed in its current state. Commissioner Baradi suggested maybe shifting the area of penetration into the valley in order the ductwork to blend in better. Commissioners recommended painting the wood screening at a color to match the current trend, not to match the shingle color, to see what would work better on the site. It recommended the applicant provide mock-ups of the proposed options to review. The commission asked that the equipment be painted in order to blend better to the site. At the March business meeting, commissioners had the following feedback. The commission requested further renderings showing the screening from different vantage points to ensure ducting would not be visible from the right of way when approaching in any direction. Commissioners asked if the ductwork could be relocated. The commission noted that they would be okay with the height of screening in this context, as long as it does provide the screening necessary for ducting. A detailed drawing of the connection between the screening panel and the slope of the roof was requested. It was noted that a gap between the roof and the screening may be preferable to some commissioners. The commission noted that wood may not be an appropriate material for the screening panels and posts in this design, and suggested that metal would be more appropriate alternatives. Some commissioners suggested that the vertical posts seemed too busy, particularly when painted the contrasting color of the panels. Metal could alleviate the need for so many vertical elements, and the screening could be painted a single solid color. Commissioners noted that the signage placed on top of the screening does not feel like an integrated piece of the structure, and suggest having the sign placed in the screening fence towards the corner of the building. Additionally, the sign will be more appropriate with the compliant frame. The applicant has clarified that the signage that's shown on these renderings is placeholder now, and that the signage will come through at a different day. Also clarified that the ductwork cannot be removed. The applicant provided updated rendering showing the view of the screening from directly across Summit Street. Staff note that the base image for this rendering is from the street view and was taken prior to the ductwork being installed. But the applicant has provided updated photographs of all of the vantage points on this street. As the work undertaken does not match what was approved and does not meet the code chapter 3116 or the guidelines, staff is unable to support the unapproved work at this time. So staff recommend either continuing the application to allow the applicant time to revise the proposal to make the code with guidelines, or denial of the application based on City Code Section 3116-11, standards for alteration, City Code Section 3116-14, standards for demolition, City Code Section 3116-13, standards for site improvements, and possibly the Columbus Control Review Commission guidelines, but we are still unclear on whether this is slate or not. Staff did find in the file reference to the shingles being asbestos shingles. They would have been installed in the 70s by the looks of things. And so are potentially contributing in their own right. And that would not change staff's opinion on having this ductwork inspecting the roof and small roof, because even if it's not slate, it is still water. And that is a distinguishing characteristic. The basis for this recommendation, this is 116.14, standards for demolition. City Code Section 3116.11, standards for alteration. City Code Section 3116.13, standards for site improvements, and potentially the amendments to the City of Columbus Architectural Review Commission guidelines on slate maps.
Can I ask you a question? What was the primary reason which is recommended that this team? You said two things right at the beginning about it, and they couldn't go over it.
Oh, it was based on the standards for alteration, standards for demolition, standards for site improvement.
So,
Site improvement.
Okay, I guess we'll get you sworn in first. Can you raise your right hand and state your name?
Matt Taddy, Television Studio.
And do you promise to tell the truth, the promise to?
I do.
Awesome. Do you want to respond first to the?
Yeah, I would, I think maybe we start by just a recap of where we left off last month. We had a discussion about the screening, so we've elevated that screen to 48 inches at the request of the commission. So that is what has been shown in all of the updated views and drawings. The commission also requested that we look at a couple of different color options for that screening. So we started with the sort of red tone from the existing trim. And we also added a silver gray to sort of match the color of the shingles, which was again a request of the commission. We had a third option in there for the business meeting that was removed that had both of those to mimic the sort of Tudor style trim work on the gable. The feedback from the business meeting was that that was not something that we wanted to pursue or we should pursue further, so we eliminated that option. One of the other comments from the business meeting was also a requested straight on view, so that is what you see here. Staff report correctly noted that that base view was taken from street view, but as you can see here, this is a photo taken on site. The DOAS does screen the ductwork in question the same way that it's rendered from the street view. So that's a non-factor moving forward in terms of views. We did also look into relocating ductwork, and that is going to be technically infeasible for us to accomplish. However, the ductwork is able to be painted, so we could paint the ductwork to match the roofing material, the shingles if necessary. The equipment itself, the DOAS unit, cannot be painted, so that'll have to remain the sheet metal color that it is in its current state. I would like to just reiterate this. I was on record by saying this last month, but it remains in the staff report, so I feel like it's important to reiterate that these are not slate shingles. They are fibrous material of some variety. So the reference to the design standards regarding slate shingles we feel is an inappropriate justification for any action at this point. Would also like to reiterate that the two other cited conditions for a recommendation of denial, in this case 311614 demolition and 311613 standards for site improvement, we also feel actually do not apply at all, as there is no demolition proposed on the property, and the site alterations it was referencing, I believe, the site and then the rooftop screening, those have all been previously approved under existing COA that was approved by this commission back in summer of 2025. Those items are still going to be constructed, they just haven't been constructed yet. So the idea that there's a zoning violation or violation because those haven't yet been installed throughout the standard construction process is also inappropriate. So at this time, I would love to field any questions you might have about the changes since our last conversation and see what we can do to move this forward.
Real quick, can I confirm that what exactly we are approving? Because we've already approved the 48-inch, or that is still yet to be approved.
We have not approved the 48-inch.
Okay, so
The
that,
2-inch has been approved.
okay,
There was a version of mechanical equipment that was approved last summer.
okay,
This condition was not a part of that approval.
perfect. So essentially today, it's the height of the screening, the color of the screening, and then discussion about the roof demolition ready to
Yeah.
enter that we're in over.
Yeah, that would be
The three items.
yes, and that would be the reference to standards for demolition. The code violation isn't for the lack of screening, it is for the inappropriate.
Can I clarify that the ductwork was included in the COA as an approved condition? It just shifted slightly due to existing and unknown site conditions. Basically, they opened up the roof and found that they couldn't put the duct right exactly there, so it shifted a little bit to the right of the dormer.
Slightly.
Within 3 feet. So it was over and up a little bit to get through basically the lowest point that it could get through that roof.
And I'm assuming that up a little bit is where,
Yes, so
Kind of
it
the
was
attention.
approved to enter kind of at this level below the height of this unit. And it ended up being here and obstructing more of that view of the dome, which is what we were trying to do.
But the fact remains that it was approved to go through the shingling roof in the
yeah,
first place.
gotcha, gotcha.
Yes.
Can you show us the view from the side? Just so that we can see the new screen, and is there one, I guess that is that north from the north?
The rendering,
Yeah, in the rendering.
it is. Yeah,
It's probably not one straight on.
What is that?
Um, Thank you for, making these changes and listening to our comments. Appreciate that always. I think that the 48 inches seems to, ameliorate a lot of these conditions that are kind of unsightly and that type of thing. So I am feeling better about it from that standpoint. I know the sign is just there temporarily, and I'm the one that said move it off center, but I hope that that will be studied, and we don't need to show it until we're looking at some Michigan. I just had to say that. I'm a little bit concerned about the construction of this fence, because the whole time I was looking at this previous to the last two meetings, I thought it was corrugated metal. I'm not sure that that is preferable from some standpoints, but my concern is that when you have this many joints and connections between wood, which always end up moving and not looking as pristine as they do here. So how are you guys detailing this so that we're not going to see these boards slipping or moving or that type of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll also point out, I agree that we moved it up to 48 and it actually, if you look at this straight on, elevation from the east, it actually aligns nicely with the Tudor, trim work there. So that was actually, I think, a really beneficial thing that happened. Somewhat coincidentally, so the detailing is such that the primary verticals and horizontals are pressure treated 4x4s. That will be painted, so they'll be more resistant to any warping or twisting. The louvers themselves are routed into those 4x4s, so they will not have the ability to fall out of alignment. We felt that the shift to wood was actually more in keeping with the character of the building itself, with all the wood trim that we have on it, and that the metal would actually be introducing a foreign material to a building that doesn't really have that metal to exist or existing in you know what I'm trying to say.
So that sounds great. I just would like to have something that says, if this doesn't wear well, if some boards shrink or expand, and it's great that you're routering them into the posts and that kind of thing, but just something that says they will be replaced if they start looking poorly. Because that's not going to be good, or if they're falling out, and there are some missing, because there's going to be a lot of wind resistance in this, I think.
And I think that's something that the property owner would be very amenable to is, making sure that it's properly maintained is, I think, in the best interest of everyone involved.
The other thing that I know is at each end, and this is very difficult, you've got the slope of the roof, and then you're trying to kind of create this piece of wood that's following that, and then the pieces are going into it. I mean, it looks a little bit further from the rendering, and maybe it's just my eyes that we see some variation in the width of that wood. But I don't know if that's just maybe you can kind of see how it is a little bit fatter and then thinner, and how you do this. I would feel better about that if you guys could submit a drawing to staff about how you're actually going to do that, so that you get a consistent width. And I would think almost as thin as possible, with it still being strong. That piece have to have a little bit of steel behind it, so that it's going to be able to stay in position like that and not again, kind of warp and bend. So we have two of those conditions. I think, I think the rest at first when I saw the posts, but I think they look nice, and I could agree with what you say about it. It kind of mimics the character of the building itself. And I think the one more remark down here. Definitely like the gray color better. That is something else that, you're maintaining these shingles?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think also that's, that staff approves the color of the paint on the wood as it relates to the shingles and the paint on the ductwork. Thing, just, you know, so we're not surprised.
Mhm. Yeah.
It looks good here.
Um, well, I guess I'll start with the fact that 48 inches like brings up makes a lot of sense. It's solving a lot of the things that came to be because of unforeseen circumstances with the placement of the duct. Which I know wasn't the intent, but I also understand that turning an older building into something new just have some challenges and unexpected occurrences. The fence itself and torn color actually between the color.
Are you?
I like the idea of the fence blending in with the shingles, but I'm just not so sure if the solid, like gray paint will actually achieve that if it's so far forward and, far away from the shingles, I guess.
It seems more neutral. That's
Okay.
what I was thinking about this, and getting that color exactly right. It's so true, I think.
With red. I think they could color match that with that trim board.
I'm fine with seeing what other people say. It's not like I'm,
I guess I was kind of on the fence, but leaning towards the red, just, I did like the fact that, like, the gray, I guess, does let the brick piece and the peak remain its, like, form, and hopefully the gray could, like, take a back seat. I'm just worried that in reality, will it just actually stand out more because it's this, like, stark, lighter color almost.
and
Um,
one thing is, it doesn't try to be historic.
Yeah.
You know, where this is in a little, in a way, trying to be historic. But color is tough, and color makes or breaks a project, you know, so it's so much, you know, I was doing it in a very meticulous way. I would actually be on site and look at them,
yeah.
but I don't know which one do that kind of thing.
Um, so I guess ultimately I would be comfortable, approving what is shown. Um, and I'm on the reds and colors, so I guess we'll see if we have another opinion on that, but, do you have any comments?
Yeah, no comments. Yeah, I guess the paint on the car, I think I like the red because it matches the soffit and the difference there, so. But yeah, no, I think that the HVAC, and that's really what you can do with that building, so I understand that. But yeah, it being 48 inches versus 36, definitely helps a little bit.
Would you be open with that? Like approving either? The pink colors, it's pretty hard to get to.
Could go with either, I think. I like, I mean, it's just my opinion. We need to have more people here
I have.
to break these.
We do.
But,
Do you feel?
what's your
strongly-
preference?
Yeah.
I was gonna joke that we should ask the neighbor to weigh in on the color. I think we're partial to the red because of I think a lot of the reasons you stated, but also it feels a little bit more in keeping to us with the historic nature of the building. But that's our
It
take.
becomes an element with the red, and my thing is to try to make it go away. But it's not something I feel that strongly about.
I think one of the things about the red that we were thinking is it does become more monolithic with the brick also, so it may not be as in your face as if it's a color change at the horizontal data to the gray.
Okay with that.
And approving kind of their preference, either the gray or the red, or do.
Well, yes, you say either, and then, then that means it could be that, so.
Yeah. Okay, does, anyone want to make a motion?
Okay. I move, and you're gonna have to read the number, because I don't have it in front of me, that we approve
It is, COA 26. 00047.
with the following stimulations, that the screen wall will be 48 inches tall, that either the red or the gray color is acceptable. That a requirement that if the wood screen does not hold up and stay in its current condition, that it would be repaired by the owner. That a sketch will be approved by staff showing the end pieces and how the bottom rail or support of the screen wall meets the slope roof, and the width of that kind of support was to help ensure that it's going to be sturdy and not precarious. Is anything? Because this, I don't need to comment on the sign, right? That's just.
No.
Okay. Did I hear them all?
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, painting the ductwork.
Oh, yes. And that the ductwork is painted wherever possible to match the slate or a bit darker.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Okay, we're good?
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I would go, but.
Okay, thanks.
I'm home.
Thanks, everyone.
Welcome.
Shannon? What? Oh, that's late. Oh, that's.
All right. Wait, no. We're doing eight. Oh, that was from staff. Okay. 8:50.
Gonna display PMR with us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Raise your right hand, state your name for the record.
Steve Hurt with Urban Order Architecture.
Do you swear to tell the truth to the best of your ability this evening?
I do.
Go ahead.
This is COA 2600109 to 853 Summit Street. This is an application for new construction of an addition to construct a new 1.5-story addition to the existing 1.5-story home. To modify the rear addition to add another 1.5-story addition to the rear along the existing alley. And the rear addition is to include a 3-bay garage with living space above. And the connection between the existing home and the garage to have a roof deck. Materials to include cement board siding, asphalt shingles, aluminum clad wood windows from the approved window list, and overhead garage doors to be purchased. The following is taken from the minutes of the January 13th IUC hearing. The commission noted that they appreciate the simplification of the design and the changes to the window openings and full change of the siding. Commissioners noted that the concept of the building appearing as an old building that has been added onto as the first day. One area of concern is the symmetry of the proposed building, as there are not many homes with contemporary additions in County Village that are this spectacle. For the most part, we'll not see that kind of width that has exactly the same information on both sides. Some commissioners note that it's a bit unusual to have the area, a bit unusual in the area to have a projecting rate or overhang to the E level, as shown. It may help to have either more depth or a trim board or some detail added. Some commissioners suggested regarding the horizontal of the gable, maybe that should just be 1 foot, return, and then be a band board. Changing the siding of the gable would be a nice detail to what the commission recommended planning up some more historic details for the portion of the building intended to be more historic in style. For example, looking for the windows in the historic building, example in the packet, and the windows are treated. Currently, the window trim proportions on the proposed building are shown as all equal. On most historic homes, the sill is thinner and the lintel has an overhead. Some commissioners noted that they were torn on the proposed metal roofing on the front porch, since that is intended to be the main historic style portion of the building. Currently, the front porch is leaning a little like in a barn style, particularly with the metal roofing combined with the really large columns. Making sure there is some type of trim detailing and making shingle roofing on the front porch and set may help the new building more to the surrounding. In the renderings, the base of the building appears to be wrapped with brick, although this may be due to the rapid exploration. Applicant noted they agreed wood porches would be more consistent with the area. Some commissioners asked if there could be detailing included on the columns, at least the textile. Regarding the more modern style addition, the commission noted the upper floor casement windows seem really tall and the roof line seem somewhat thin. Not sure if the applicant will have a hazard issue and did not see that information on the section drawing. Some commissioners asked if the garage wall could be brought up higher to make the balcony area more of a enclosed structure than a railing or a combination of a wall and a railing. They find that the railing on top of the garage is not always a visual success. Supporting something on top of the garage will avoid the garage becoming a constant small appendage to the larger building. Some commissioners noted that there are a couple of examples in nearby Victorian Village that have a blended park. Commission suggested that as the applicant develops the garage parapet, to take a look at different ways to deal with the drainage, since they don't have the full system visible, or maybe there's horizontal constant forward or architectural solution. At the March business meeting, which just had the following feedback. The commission appreciated the design updates from the previous review and the fairness of the application. The commission requested a simple slide that shows the materials requested on one page for each review. The applicant provides an updated sheet of materials and commission requests. And staff recommend that the addition be visually distinguished from the original structure through a lot of setting style, assembly alteration. The staff recommend approval of application COA 26000109 at 853 Summit Street, with the following conditions. With the siding, for the new addition, be differentiated from the original home, sense of style or color, and final materials to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to station. The basis of the recommendation is in section 3116.11, standards for alteration. 3116.12, standards for new construction. The short note design guidelines on height and massing. The short note design guidelines on construction.
All right, thank you. You have anything to add?
I should have said this when we started, but I think that the comments from the commissioner are about the project on the whole board. And not the comments on this one.
It's really mixed.
I couldn't tell. I thought it was weird. It's like watch and yeah.
Okay, I will double check.
So. There's a lot of, I think a lot of those comments don't necessarily apply to what we're doing here, porches and the parapets and stuff that we don't have. I think we've talked about this a number of times. This is the first I've heard about changing the siding profile or color for the additions. So we did on the one-story connector piece, that is a vertical siding, and then we were planning on horizontal siding, just as simple. The whole point of this is we're trying to keep this as simple as possible, given what we've started with and the complexity of what is happening here. But I'm open to that discussion of color or profile or if that's if people feel that that's what we should be doing, or if that's it. Again, my preference is just to keep it all simple and the same, especially since the original cottage has been completely covered in new siding.
Yeah. Can we start?
I could, it is remarkable when you look at the photos, and I'm sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. So maybe I shouldn't. Excuse me, that they look so much lighter or darker in one photo versus another. But can you just pull the photo? I'm just curious, is that indicative of the existing color that you said?
Yeah, it's the black that people use.
The dark. It's very nice. I was just kind of wondering if as the discussion continues, you know, what other people might say as well. Is continuing with that color an acceptable thing? Does the new piece need to be slightly different? What is the age of this, the original piece?
It's probably early.
Like this.
Well, it's the fire record, so there's not.
I mean, it's old.
I would,
Yeah.
I would say mid-1800s even, because it's such a
Yeah,
early example of things that would be built in this neighborhood.
And I think that comes into play too. And you know, I'd just like to kind of keep that open as we talk about what the color variations might be. That this is a historic structure and is it different? Maybe that's not what anything to consider. So I only had a couple of things because like you said, we have looked at this a few times before. There is a site plan and I appreciate that. And I just have to ask, but I'm sure that the private alley is open to your use. Is that, does that come under an easement? So there will always be an ability to back out?
Yes.
Okay, great. And, there's one spot in the drawings, and I know, Steve, you're going to say, tell me something that my concern is, well, or I just have to ask. Because I'm looking at how the water comes down, if you look at the south elevation. And you see that with that kind of shed, dormer, or gable roof piece that's in there. It looks like the water from the piece on the right side is coming to the garage. What is happening there?
We'll have to put a cricket in there.
Okay. All right.
So it overlaps by that 2 feet of where we're sending back the dormer.
Okay, I just didn't see it in the drawings, so I was curious.
Yeah, you won't see it in elevation.
Okay. And what happens on the street? What are you committing to in the board? There's one garage door. And it's just shown in the site plan as we don't see a lot of detail how that intersects with the rear of the house and the side piece. What is going
The
on
rear overhead garage door.
in those areas here and here?
It's not proposed yet, but that is just, they eventually want a pool back there, and then that will be part of a pool deck, so you can open the overhead door to the backyard and use the garage as pool room, kind of.
I was just wondering if there's another drive or you know, what was going to be happening, but it's essentially just their landscaped private area.
Yes,
Okay,
there's a good amount of space back there.
yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Levi. I know we've been around this one, so I think we're all probably pretty comfortable with the form and everything. As far as the siding question, I think the north elevation, like you said, shows it very clearly the separation from the existing and new addition. And then on the east elevation, the way it's drawn, because it is the existing building, it does just kind of show the, it doesn't have the horizontal lines of the siding as much. And I do think it is kind of nice having that jump forward a little bit, that single gable area. But I would agree with you that the simplicity of having everything wrapped in kind of the same size of horizontal siding is nice because there is a lot going on with the form and the dormers and everything. So I guess that being said, I would be in favor of just maintaining that the size of the siding that is existing on the historic piece of the home. And I could go really either way as far as coloring it differently. I think the form itself kind of showcases it, with things being pushed back from the existing building enough, that we're okay in that sense. As I know we've talked about, the from the last time I saw it, I guess I don't know if I missed a month, but I think the windows above the garage doors and everything look a nicer proportion and everything. I'd say all the windows that kind of we've gone through, including the front, the east elevation, look nice with the existing building. So, yeah, no other comments from me.
Yeah, no comments, good.
I think I'm gonna be, I agree with the, style of siding just staying the same because of everything going on. But I do, just because of the east elevation, you know, popping up like that, I feel that having that, even if it's just a couple shades different, is gonna be important, to just show these little cottages or, you know, there's not a lot of them left in the village. And I think really trying to call that out visually, that that was there and it was its own tiny little thing. And I think that the way to do that is probably just the color of the siding at this point. I don't think it needs to be some type of like intense difference, but just how dark the siding is also makes me kind of feel that way for some reason, because it, you know, dark colors just blend to the eye. So that's my feeling on that. I don't know how others feel.
I think that's a good idea. Even I like even just like a couple shades different of what's happening, so it's not too busy, but still distinguished at its own historic piece. Yeah.
It's such a nice little structure, you know, so I think if you look at the east elevation and you look at that and see, okay, then we're gonna see a bit of a difference between these two, not a large difference. I think it's nice to kind of showcase it a bit.
So my gut, if we're changing color, my sort of gut feeling would be to lighten up the existing structure and let the new stuff background in
Yeah,
darker.
yeah, you're right. That would be nice.
Similar to the elevation.
Yeah, that's pretty much what people do. Yeah. But I think that you can work with staff on what those shades are. Don't have to obviously come back for that. Any other comments?
It'll be a nice project.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve COA 26000109. With, I think the only condition is that I'm working with staff to determine paint color of the existing structure versus the new structure.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great, thank you.
you.
That's it for you?
No, we have one more.
Yeah.
I think I've-
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
You too.
the staff reports.
Yeah.
I like pulled them, if you click them on the link on the agenda, then it takes you to.
From the Kindle.
Yeah, yeah, so we'll be, I know, I don't think they were voted on.
It was the PR.
Yes.
The official.
We can get you guys more chats. It's like,
Yeah.
we can have some sit down here as well if you like. Plenty. That's your best.
So those of you who are actually giving testimony and want to talk,
Speaker said here.
talking is in there.
Okay.
You're on that, you're
Yeah.
on, you're on.
I think we need one more check.
Okay.
They were open.
You're good. Yeah. I don't need to talk, I'm gonna go down here.
Yeah, this is a big step report. Okay, sorry, we're having Kindle difficulties. Yeah. Okay, so this is BOA 2600111, 274 East First Avenue. Can those who are testifying raise their right hand and state your names for the record?
Bhakti Vanya.
Patrick Byrne.
Eric Zardman.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability this evening?
Yes. Yes.
Great, thank you. The process is gonna be that, just because I think you guys haven't been in front of our commission before, but correct me if I'm wrong.
They have it.
They have, oh, well, they
Well,
were here for
the
this
business
meeting. So for a hearing, staff will read her report. You guys can comment. Each commissioner will provide comments and then you can respond to those comments. But we try to prevent back and forth chatting, between you all and the commissioners. That would be the process. Go ahead.
This is COA 2600111 and 274 East First Avenue. This, proposal is to demolish an existing multi-structure complex on the East First Avenue, east of North Sixth Street and south of Second Avenue, and to construct 5 buildings, including 3 three-story apartment buildings, 2 four-story apartment buildings with an attached 3.5 level apartment. At the March business meeting, commissioners have the following feedback. The commission noted that the project does not need to blend in with the surroundings, and the site should be developed the way the architect believes is best and have its own identity. The commission will also amenable to an increase in the height. It was noted that an increased green space would be preferable to commissioners, and this could be achieved by increasing the height of those buildings. The commission requested that the driveways be landscaped and screened. An increase in permeability in the parking area was encouraged, with the commission noting that permeable surfaces could be mixed with traditional parking surfaces, such as concrete. The commission noted that the end elevation on page 12 of the packet reads plainly currently could be played with, including a tree lawn along the curb would be preferable along the perimeters that do not have overhead power lines. For perimeters that have overhead power lines, trees should be included creatively around the site. Staff note that the existing state library building has undergone many alterations, and as such, the majority of the building is no longer considered contributing. Staff recommends the commission to offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at future episodes. On the basis of this recommendation, in City Code section 3116.12, standards for new construction, 3116.14, standards for demolition, the short note guidelines on heights and massing, new construction. There are upcoming variances related to this application, because they were not included as a part of the initial application packet. We were advised to just mention that they exist, but not include them.
Okay.
I can start. Commission members, good evening. My name is Pat Byrne. I'm the Development Director with Maris. Ameris would serve as the developer and design builder of the proposed project. We have with us tonight a good portion of our development team, our project architect, UBCO. We have with us from Ameris, John Buttengarner, our Ohio market leader, Brian Wilmers from JDS Companies. We have Eric Zartman, who's with Underhill and Hodge, and he's assisting us on the rezoning efforts. Just to kind of speak briefly about Maris and who we are, we're a long tenured development design build company, Ohio-based, headquartered in Cincinnati. We have offices in Pittsburgh, Raleigh, and Nashville. We have a lot of experience both as a general contractor and a developer, developing this type of multifamily product in addition to industrial, office, and mixed use. We're an employee-owned company. We do take that to heart in the way that we approach projects, take a lot of ownership and pride in what we build, and we're very interested in doing things the right way. This project, Tiny Village, we are thrilled, about the opportunity and potential for it. In a location like this, urban infill redevelopment, it's really important to us that this project aligns with the overall character of the neighborhood. So we're thankful for this opportunity, this forum to open a dialogue about our plan and welcome your feedback, because it really is valuable to our process. I'm going to give it to Bhakti here in a minute just to walk through the plan in greater detail. Just wanted to give you just a snapshot of where we are in the process overall. So we recently submitted our site compliance plan to the city of Columbus. We have our one-stop shop meeting scheduled tomorrow morning to work through those initial comments. We have completed the rezoning application. That's in progress as well. And Eric will probably speak to that and give you an update and kind of a look ahead at what we're trying to accomplish there in the next few months. And yeah, overall, we are just looking forward to progressing with design and again, welcome your feedback. So I'll give Bhakti the floor to walk through the package here.
Sure. Eric, do you want to give an overview?
Let's try to have these.
And then I can.
Hi, thank you, Commissioner. My name is Eric Zartman. I'm a zoning attorney from Columbus. I understand the majority of this meeting will be concerned about conceptual review of the design, but I just wanted to set you up for what our entitlement attack on this project is. This site is currently zoned manufacturing under Title 33. If you're aware of the zoning initiative in Columbus, in 2024, Columbus zoned High Street and 4th Street and 5th Avenue under the UCT district. City of Columbus have another initiative, phase 2 of the zoning, and that's to rezone more of corridors in Columbus. And this will include Summit Avenue and also this site we're talking about here today. It's projected to be enacted in fall. Our project is a little bit ahead of that schedule. So what we're asking is to rezone from Title 33 into the adjacent Title 34 UCT district. A year ago, the city of Columbus adopted an ordinance which allowed adjacent properties that are currently in Title 33 to opt in and zone into Title 34 of the same district, which is adjacent to it. So we're taking advantage of that path that the city of Columbus created last year. And so if we were to do nothing today, if we were to do nothing as far as the zoning perspective, this site would be rezoned by phase 2 later this year. However, as I said, we're a little bit ahead of that schedule. We'd like to handle it on our own timeframe, and ordinance can sometimes be delayed months up to a year. So we're trying to take that into our own hands. We have not identified any variances yet. We did have the site compliance review, which is tomorrow. And then the zoning staff review is next Thursday, and we'll receive a comment letter from that. But We've been designing this project with an eye on what the UCT district is and the design characteristics of that. And the site plan is a reflection of that. And so it's for such a big project, not having any variances is quite a testament to the design of the project. So we're really proud of that. I'll update you if that happens to change on the subsequent reviews tomorrow, next week. But as of right now, we're just expecting a straight rezoning to the ECT district under Title 34. This is not going against the city's policy. We're actually following along with the city's guidance using an avenue that they created last year to opt into Title 34. I think the city acknowledges that this should be a larger mixed-use site, which is evidenced by the land use plan that was adopted a couple years ago, or I'm sorry, a couple months ago. And so that's the path we're on. I'd be happy to answer any zoning questions. I expect we'll be returning to your commission in a month or two with more details about that. Pastor Buffy, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. So, could we run through the facts today? So we are, as you're aware, developing the site that has, First Avenue to the south, Second to the north, Sixth Street is the west border of our site. That's kind of the boundary. And really, we've studied the context of the neighborhood. We actually were involved in a lot of the prior projects just after this about 12-ish years ago that we presented to the commission back then. And so since then, now that we're coming back into the neighborhood with this project, there's a lot more development that has happened around, and we took all of that sort of into consideration as we were designing this project. Our overall goal really is to kind of make sure that it is a good urban infill project for its location, that it's compatible in size of buildings and style of buildings with everything that currently exists in the fabric and really enhances the current fabric of that neighborhood, which has become, over the last 10 years, much more residential, much more pedestrian friendly. So when you see, we have some slide, that shows kind of the existing buildings on the site. And I think we had a discussion at the business meeting, that even though some part of that building is, fairly old, it's kind of cobbled together over the years quite a bit. So, there really isn't a contributing character to that building. So that entire building will be demolished as part of this project. The next slide, I think, is just about the zoning that Eric went through in detail. So that just kind of shows you the zoning that's proposed for the site. And then the next slide, I think, is just showing you again the context that we were kind of looking at to make sure that our project is very compatible with what's already existing in the neighborhood. So coming to our site, so the way we were looking at this is we have sort of two building types on our site, the way we're proposing it. We have a 3-story walk-up unit typology that goes along the first on the south side of the site, and then along the north side of the site, which is along Second. And then we have a 4-story apartment building, a typical kind of double-loaded corridor building, which one is along 6th Street, and then a C-shaped building that's internal to the site that screens for the most part from most of the pedestrian or visible corridors, the parking garage that sits immediately behind it, which sits kind of on the east side of the site. So we have those two building typologies, and as we were kind of designing this project, we really wanted to kind of focus our attention, the design intent, sort of towards these gateway moments. So we have a few, obviously the pedestrian and vehicular entry of the south as well as the west. Those building ends are where we think those are kind of the gateway pieces. And so we wanted to focus a lot of design intent towards how do we make those pieces more welcoming, sort of the gateway element. We also have an idea of having, pedestrian access through the site, south to north. So if there is a corridor that goes, a pedestrian walkway that goes all the way north, you see that break between the two walk-up buildings, the ends in blue.
I wish I had a pointer, but, you see what I'm talking about, and that kind of is another pedestrian access point, which is a little bit of a pocket park that we're creating there, that connects you directly to Second. And then the other visual corridor, the other visual corridor that we have is, oh, it doesn't work on the sorry. I can just point. The other visual corridor we have is so we have sort of a very, open kind of a two-story lobby space in this building as well as that. And this is sort of a green space that sits within that courtyard. So we do want to create a lot of transparency, and that is kind of a visual corridor that we're creating between those two sites, between those two buildings and into that green space. So those are kind of our focal points when we're looking at the overall design of the buildings. We go to the next slide. This shows you again a little bit more of, what are the green spaces that currently exist on the site. Obviously, a lot of it is in the C-shaped building, but every edge of the site towards the pedestrian face does have green space. The last time we were here at the business meeting, there was a discussion about 6th Street, that there is actually a existing tree line there. So that is definitely, since that was only maybe a week and a half ago. We obviously weren't allowed to change anything, but that's definitely something we're taking into consideration, keeping that as it is. Because that is the corridor where we don't have overhead lines, south and north we do, and so trees are going to be a lot more difficult to do on that side. So we do plan to maintain that, and then, kind of focus a lot of our effort towards, again, the corners of the buildings where there is a little bit more green space that we can explore. And then this is the typical plan that you see, sort of, it shows you where the breezeway buildings, the yellow is sort of where the breezeways are, on the north and south building, and then the two the C-shaped building and the longer building, which is the double loaded corridor. So you can see the green that you see is sort of amenity on the inside, and then the lobby space that kind of visually connects from one building to the next.
What do you mean by breezeway?
So the walk-up buildings are basically kind of an open breezeway that kind of connects the units. So I can show you when we get to the stairs. It's not open to the sky, but it is open. So it's not an enclosed corridor for those buildings. And those you see, we're connecting all of those. Again, the corridors are directly off of the street, so you will have, ability to enter every unit from First Avenue and Second Avenue. There is a grade change on the north, so we will have some, as we develop the design, we will have some steps and things like that to negotiate those changes in grade that happen along the site. But that's the intent overall, is to have a lot of pedestrian presence and access directly from the street into those units, into the corridor of those units, rather. This is just, the floor plan as it goes through. Typical level 2 plan, and then as it goes up. And then these are some of the renderings that you saw. So again, the mix of materials is very much what is existing in the neighborhood, but still we wanted to create kind of a project that had its own presence and its own identity. So there's a lot of colors and the green and the red is a little bit of a take on the Italian village colors themselves, and what that could mean for the neighborhood. So we have some of that along with brick and some wood tone materials, and some vertical siding materials. So these are just some renderings that we have showing you the gateway. So this is the entry off of the Second Avenue. This is the portal, the lobby portal that I was talking about. That is a much more visually open access. It kind of breaks up that building at that point as well, visually. This is the entry off of First Avenue. So again, you're seeing, we wanted to kind of make those end pieces, maybe a location. Public art was another piece that we really wanted to incorporate into the building.
and into the site and into the project. So we thought that might be a good location maybe to do some public art. There's a lot of that in the neighborhood, and it'd be great to have a dedicated spot for those moments within the project itself. These are again, so these are, this is one of the breezeway buildings, and when you see the kind of gap, the voided space, that's where the stairs are that are within the breezeway, and then those are the units themselves. And those are the 3-story. Those are the 3 stories, right? And these are just kind of, there is across from us is the Thrive development that has kind of these very bookend buildings. And there's a pretty large green space. So this kind of is the visual corridor at the end of that. So we kind of focused on that building being, that moment being special. As well as, and then, yeah, these are just some more kind of, it gives you a sense of what that streetscape will look like. And that was it. Happy to answer any questions.
What's that start?
That's.
Yeah, I'll start, next page. Page, I think it's 7 or 8. It's kind of hard to tell from this angle, but what's, I guess, with that alley there in between, I guess the east boundary of the property? What's like the plan there for that side?
I'm sorry, which side are you talking about?
Would that be
To
the,
the east of the garage.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the access itself, there is a cross access easement in place between the neighboring parcel, which is mutual. So we are relying on that existing alleyway down south first. In terms of the skin of the garage on that side, there's some screening right back to you.
Yeah, we will revitalize some screening for the garage.
so will there be like, I guess, pedestrian like walkway there as well, or? Like right up to the easement?
Yeah, so our project limit right now scope is ending at that curb cut access point to their property. We're not planning improvements to that alley currently.
Well, thanks for all the visuals. It's very helpful as we're reviewing everything. I guess I'll start with, we get since we're on this page, I think I heard in the commission comments from the business meeting, a sentiment that, we're not scared to go a little bit higher if that does give us some more green space. And I think along that line, the one thing from, I think, this view as well as what kind of jumps out as far as the neighborhood itself being so walkable and more increasingly walkable. Something I'd be interested in hearing or see if you have any thoughts on is creating more of the like front yard or perimeter spaces so that there could be some separation from walkway to road. If there is a vegetation boundary, or a little bit more, distance, I think, from the, road to the pedestrian to the building, and then that creates some more space in the pedestrian and street front, then it kind of, it feels better to like go up higher for some of these buildings. I think just focusing on the pedestrian maps like you have with the making sure the access points are there and very much noted from the like first and second, but not only making sure they're there, but trying to make them as pleasant and as thoughtful as possible is something we typically look for as a commission. And then I would agree that it would be nice to kind of along that line, so along that alley, looking into how that can also be pedestrian friendly, getting people through there. Or if we have a different direction for them to go, but making sure we, because people would be using that alley, so just they're going to be there. So how can we make that more thoughtful and since we're really starting with the blank, slate here on this block. So I think, as far as the overall like form and blocking goes, it makes a lot of sense to me as far as, the walk-ups and then the larger building along Sixth, because there is some breathing room with those three-story, the gables across the street, so it doesn't feel overpowering anyway. And then of course, the internal, parking areas, the more, I guess, neighborhood friendly as opposed to like industrial parking lot, would be preferred. If that is messing with, I know you have your parking counts that you need to reach, but, and then the, I guess I'll switch to the overall look and feel. I think, it's a really nice add to the community. I love the flames color. I think that's very fun, and also what was said, this is me, doesn't, since this is like a brand new blank slate for you, doesn't have to necessarily tie right into everything adjacent. You can, we also pride ourselves on the art that takes place in this area. So being playful with the facade, I think we encourage that. I do really like that you stuck, it is the nod to the industrial with kind of the roof line adjusted on those higher 4-story building is a nice detail. And the switch up of materials also helps break this thing up. It is so monolithic, to again, take it back to that pedestrian scale and make it feel a little bit more friendly in the neighborhood. So as far as all of the look and feel so far, I think it makes a lot of sense, the area. And then this is always like nitpicky thing, but always thinking about where's trash coming, where I didn't see like on the plans, kind of where's all the backup house. I think I saw on the breezeway, you can see we're utilizing some screening on above or maybe some units. Is that correct? Which I think that's a really nice strategy to be able to house those units there, but then would be interested to hear kind of about the circulation of more of the function side of things about the trash or amenities coming through here.
Let's see, could you go to, I think it's the first floor plan that has the gateways and then have the other pieces. I'm not sure if you call it the open lobby space. So, let's say the one before that. Okay, after. There, that one. I mimic a lot of the other comments, but I'll speak more specifically so you know what I mean. I appreciate that you're trying to make connections, that you've got this lobby in the front that's coming off of 6th Street and you're saying, okay, we're going to make an axis and we're going to create a connection to the other building. And I think that's really nice. I wish there was maybe another, that could be brought into it one more time along the front so you're connecting through there. I realize everything I'm saying is going to mean fewer units and nobody likes to hear that. So, but I think that the reason I say that too is not only just because it's such a nice idea and it builds community and that type of thing, but when you look at that kind of leg of the first building, you see that super long corridor. And I think when you ask people to walk those things every day, it's not a pleasant experience where what you're doing with those spaces breaks that up. I know this is a little bit beyond what, kind of comes into that we really want to see, but this is more of a, it would be much nicer if that could be done, maybe, at least nicer. Then I think I was one of the people last time who was saying, wish that some of these units went higher and that we could not have it as dense as it is. I understand the issues with that. But is there a place where maybe they come up higher and we get some more green space? Dealing with ideas of impervious cover, because you're going to have a restriction on the amount of impervious cover that you can have. That can be ameliorated by pavement and that type of thing. Doesn't have to be straight green space, as you know, but it's very nice to see a lot of green space and a lot of landscaping, and your renderings are so nice in that they show that type of thing. So I really do appreciate that where you can, you're showing that there could be trees for some shade or at least cooling down the buildings and that kind of thing. How many minutes and are you asked to do a traffic study for this area?
They will have to do a traffic study.
What is that they will have to? So at some point, just being aware of how all those things come into play. What that means that rush hour when people are coming in and out of the office. Let's see. I like the connections between the buildings and governments really. You don't see that. Everybody needs to exercise, so it's great. And let's see if there's anything else about that. If you could just flip through the rendering, I just wanted to give you some kudos. I think these things that you guys, oops, don't go that one, it's had a different comment. Where the way that you're thinking about incorporating art and some graphics, and you look at this and you see a fair number of trees, I think this all continues. And I'm looking at this facility, and I can see the entrance in the background. If we go to the next one. Something back there. Somehow it just felt to me like this piece wasn't fitting in the same way. Everything else was kind of gelling and felt like a strong composition, and this felt like a very contemporary insertion. So that's just what I want to say about that. And that might be it. Let me just check my notes to see. Oh, and then just making sure, as you mentioned, that we do have street tree lines in the front, and that, you need a 5-foot sidewalk, 3-foot street kind of planting area, that those continue wherever possible. Helps. That's the difference, I think, to make it very cohesive. What are the green panels that you see? At least they look that way on my computer.
Those are just accent. We wanted to add an accent color, and we were really trying to kind of relate it and connect it with Italian village. And so
Like
those are
that we see here.
yeah, so some buildings have the green and the olive green accent, and some have the burgundy red accent.
And what material?
I think that we're still looking at some materials on that, so those might end up being sort of a metal panel or kind of siding material. We're still exploring. I think it's early conceptual.
That's how you're getting the green.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we carry on, we do have one comment from.
Oh, do you want me to read that out? Okay, so before I give my comments, I'll read this out from Jordan. Schwander. Would be his last name. It's a Gmail that I'm reading from, so I can't tell if that's his last name. Hello, I wanted to say that overall, this isn't a bad project, but the lack of any retail and the amount of service lots for this project are not appropriate for a dense walkable area. Sorry, I haven't read that. There should be at least a corner shop or a small cafe space or a few locations for some type of retail. There are currently 2 businesses that will be removed, and it makes 0 sense to have nothing back in there. It's extremely dense area with plenty of people. Thank you, Jordan. So, I guess Jordan could not be here tonight, but left this comment. Record, any other public? Okay. So I think that one thing that has happened with this site that we've been, I mean, as we know, we've been planning for 15 years at this point, is that the height has really diminished, because commercial was removed, from a large portion of this post-COVID. You know, I understand that's the market. But I'm pretty disappointed on, you know, we are moving into a zoning district that you're gonna be able to go up 11 stories and you're against a railroad track. The other areas that we have that happening that have been newly approved, are much taller, you know, I'm thinking, you know, the stuff that's backing 670. So I think 3 and 4 stories with how you're trying to fit it on the space. And I can't tell for sure, but I think it's not by not providing a lot of sidewalk, a lot of tree line. I'd be really interested to see what a study of the site looks like once you actually put those on and what happens to the building when those are in a form that we find acceptable. Because right now it's looking like, yes, these connections are being made, but I don't think that they're high quality from how close the building, like, I don't have a measuring stick. And I didn't like print this out with a ruler to try to figure that out. But that's a big concern I have. I think that we're gonna need a separation from the buildings to sidewalk, a good sized tree lawn. The materiality is gonna be really important within your internal circulation. The size of trees are gonna be really important. So that's gonna just be something that you guys are gonna need to keep in mind. And the whole point of this zoning district is that you can go higher to accommodate that type of site planning. So that's just something that I think is gonna be really important going forward. You also have a parking garage in the back, so I'm wondering a little bit about all of this on-street parking, is who it's for. Is it for residents? Is it just for visitors? Why is there so much of it? Why are they not parking in the parking garage? You know, if we make this back building higher, we make the parking garage higher. I know this adds costs for you, but this is kind of the last site we have. And we're getting like really ticky-tacky back there. And if that makes sense, right? Like everything's starting to look the same. And I think that you have a big site that you can be a little bit more creative with. You don't need to just look at Jeffrey Park and just copy and paste what's been happening there. So that's something that I'll be looking for going forward. I know that residents are concerned about this lack of commercial activity. We obviously have no say on that with our review, and I understand that the market isn't dictating that right now. But I do want to make sure that the site is something special for the neighborhood and not just something that was kind of like, it was in the back and was kind of copied over from what was there before. And this is also the site that really connects the rest of the neighborhood from the north into Jeffrey Park. So like, I live north of this site. When I walk into Jeffrey Park, I'm typically actually walking in front of, you know, what's now a huge parking lot, but just east of 4th Street, and that's how you get to Bada Banger, right? We don't, pedestrians are not using 4th Street as a pedestrian corridor, and I'm sure you understand why. And so this is gonna be that key pedestrian corridor that is connecting people to whatever small, you know, commercial is available within this site. where the gym is and Target and things like that are. So we're really, unfortunately, just because of the one-way nature of 4th Street and the freeway access off of 4th Street causing just really fast traffic. This is going to be kind of the front door that this street is gonna, as you guys rebuild your side of it, is the front door of this part of the neighborhood. And so that's something to keep in mind. Another thing that we've tried to stay away from through the development of the apartment side of the Jeffrey Park units is staying away from this, 3-story breezeway and building. Those have been, that units are just open. I assume these units are just only accessed from those external stairwells. We've been generally staying away from that. It gives a really suburban feel to an urban area. I don't think you would find one of those on the Jeffrey, anywhere in Italian Village that we've approved. And I don't think that really provides, this is an urban area. Those types of units in an area like this, that's near the railroad tracks, is just, I don't think that's gonna be secure for your residents. Like, people are not really gonna be, I would like to see something a little bit more, taller, but then, a little higher quality, and thinking about how your resident is gonna be moving in and out of that building. From a material standpoint, I do appreciate, I agree with you about trying to be as playful and artful as possible with the building exteriors, with the architecture. You don't have to stick in the Italian Village colors. I think we're named Italian Village, but that's about it. There are no Italian restaurants in Italian Village. It's not like Little Italy in Cleveland. So, if there are other colors you want to play with, feel free. I think that covers everything that I had. I'm not concerned about demolition of the existing structure. That was the other thing, that back alley, we're in back of, so east of the parking garage. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's gonna need a sidewalk as well. I think you can't just be like parking garage done and end at your boundary line. Because that is probably eventually also going to be, some type of pedestrian alley when that strip right behind you redevelops. And so kind of treating that like it's just kind of ends and you don't know what's happening is probably not something that we're gonna, be looking for with this. So you kind of have all 4 sides that you need to think about from a pedestrian standpoint. Okay, your turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, I was just trying to make notes so that I can respond to everybody's comments, so these might be in the order that they were given. So yeah, definitely, we do, we're very focused on the pedestrian experience and making it pedestrian friendly. This is a conceptual review, so we aren't showing you very detailed plans of how we're planning to landscape that zone between the street, the tree line, the pedestrian, sidewalk, the green zone, and the building is super critical for the development because that's kind of your presence on the street. And so we will have a much more detailed kind of look at that, give you dimensions. We're very comfortable that our buildings are offered enough that the green space will feel, and also giving that sense of privacy to the unit while making it still feel like you are very much a part of that pedestrian experience from the street. We do have a trash strategy. We have trash chutes in the 4-story buildings. And in the walk-up units, we're
Yeah.
debating how to address it.
Yeah. thinking of valet service, that would dispose of the trash for tenants. And we have identified 2 locations for trash compactors on the site. It's part of the preliminary site plan that we'll review tomorrow. So that needs to be vetted a little bit further with the hauler and make sure we're sized appropriately and clearances and things, but we have started thinking about that.
Yeah, and we can tell you more about it as we develop that. So the lobby connection, I think we take that point, I think visually kind of, we will look at that in detail and really kind of figure out again, that connection to the street, the pedestrian experience into the lobby, and even between the 2 lobbies. We had a comment in the business meeting about, potentially adding some pervious pavers to the site, and if that can be something to look at. And we were thinking, considering that's something we're again kind of exploring, maybe the connection between the 2 lobbies could be sort of a pervious paver so that it visually as well as kind of breaks up that long drive that's there, breaks up that parking spaces and things like that. So we could look at that and kind of come back with some more details on that. We're also looking really at kind of heavily, how do we landscape the vehicular entries on south and north, again, focus on that pedestrians, but we don't want that to suddenly be this gap of experience as you're, it is a vehicular entry, so yes, you need that, but how can we then, we've buffered in the landscaping a little bit there so that it isn't that 60-foot width, it's only the width of the driveway. But we're going to focus on that landscaping as well to kind of continue the quality of that pedestrian experience. Definitely going to keep that tree line that exists on 6th. And then so we will show you a much more detailed plan of that green space between the building and the sidewalk. The parking that exists everywhere is for the residents. It's not for visitors. I mean, it's technically by code, we don't need it, but the reality is residents are gonna have cars and we need to make sure that that's not something that spills into the neighborhood and then creates more issues for other residents. So we definitely want to make sure that we're parking the people that are on this property. So the surface parking as well as the garage is for residents only. To your point of sort of the 3-story, I completely get the notion that it is a suburban prototype of a building, and I've seen that, we've all seen it everywhere. But we have actually successfully done it in urban locations, and it just is how you treat those buildings from a facade standpoint, from a breezeway standpoint, and how do you build them into the fabric. Actually, across the street, Jeffrey has, we did design 8 of those that are open breezeway kind of buildings. We've done some in Grandview, which, again, are very urban industrial, very similar kind of a feel in the neighborhood. So we feel very comfortable with that typology. It is about how you treat the facade, how you kind of create continuity so it doesn't stand out as those like 3 buildings with like just no connection between them. I think that's where they lose the urban look and they become more suburban looking. So we definitely have a lot of connections and they feel more like one building instead of these pockets of smaller buildings. And that's very intentional how we do that. We also have a lot of screening in those breezeways, even though they're open. And if they are typically in the suburban context, you would see that they don't have a roof. Ours do have a roof, and that's what we put our condensing units that you noted earlier, which are screened. So it kind of does create more of a building typology. The fact that they are open breezeways is kind of something that you may not see at first glance. So we feel very comfortable with the design direction on those that we would be putting into the neighborhood. The pedestrian walkway that, I think a few people mentioned that goes on the east of the garage. We definitely look into it. We haven't really seen where we have, what room there is there and how we can accommodate any of that, whether it is within the property that we control or not. So we'll have to explore that, but that's certainly noted that that's something that we want us to explore. That's all. I then miss anybody's comments or any we should follow up. As to the density comment, actually, We kind of got that comment the last time as well. And I'll speak a little bit more to that, but, from a standpoint of what we're envisioning this project to be, this is the scale and the look and feel that we're going after. Granted, there is a possibility it's a very different project if it's a high rise. That is not what is the intent of the developer at this point. So, it would be great to add a story, but that brings with it its own complications of more parking actually rather than less. And so I'll let Pat speak some more to it, but we have explored it and we sort of be kind of looking at it. But we are quite comfortable with the density that we're learning with this thing.
Yeah, thanks, Bhakti. Yeah, just to start there and piggyback on the density comment. I'll first say it's not often you hear a developer hesitate to, higher buildings and more density. It really, and we have looked at it, and we will, as Bhakti said, continue to look at it. One of the kind of exercises that we are undergoing now is really working the unit mix and unit layouts and right sizing those. And there may be opportunity to reduce the footprints of some of these buildings and introduce more green space. The density, it is a balance of some constraints that we want to make sure the site's adequately parked for the tenant experience. So as we add units, that adds to the structural parking costs. If we're looking to recapture that space with green space. And there are some, going from 4 to 5 story, there's some code required, fire rating, suppression, that adds cost per square foot where, there's a balance with that cost. And, part of this too is we're trying to solve for a rent that's appropriate for the market and meet a price point that we're not driving top market rents, or pushing the envelope for rents to justify robust parking garage and, going up 5, 6 stories. So we're really trying to be responsible about the price point and solving for a rent that's going to address the population in Italian Village. And I mean, the design is a huge aspect of this, but also, the economics of this and what the underwriting that we can get comfortable with and being responsible about controlling rent. So it is definitely something that we've studied and looked at. As Bhakti said, we are comfortable with this, but we take your feedback seriously, and we will go back to the drawing board and see if there's some opportunities to introduce more green space. I think certainly enhance the landscape as we flesh that out more. I think that'll be valuable for you to see. So I wanted to make that point on the 3-story walk-up. I also get your notion about it is a kind of a classic suburban prototype. To further Bhakti's point, we have seen it in the area. Jeffrey Park at the Sage, I believe Boundary has some successful 3-story walk-up, Battery B. So we were actually surprised in studying market, the prevalence of 3-story walk-up here. And it does offer, some variety in the product type. There is a different experience with a 3-story walk-up as opposed to a 4 or 5-story 4-door product. And, certain tenants may not prefer parking a garage, snaking through a parking garage, going in another elevator bank, up, walking down a long 4-door, and may prefer pulling into a surface parking spot and going right into their unit or walking up a flight of stairs. And so that may not be for everyone, but it can be a more approachable experience for tenants. We also felt that we want this to be approachable from a pedestrian standpoint and perspective, and we felt like lining the 3-story walk-up along 2nd and 1st positioned the plan to do that a little more. more approachable, I guess, is the best way to say it. I think that, yeah, just mainly wanted to address, I think Bhakti covered everything well, and I thought this was really great feedback, comments. And it's always very helpful to get this feedback now when we're in this early phase of design, and, you know, much later. And so we will definitely take everything seriously, consider this, but yeah, I think that's, we covered trash. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's a lot.
All right, we've got one more.
No, it's-
You here for what? You here for just watching anything? Okay, okay, just making sure you didn't have something you were waiting for us.
As a resident, I'm sorry.
Good. All right, so no other business.
No other business? Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We adjourn.
We
Thank you.
Page, yeah.